All right, so yesterday when I saw this comment, I thought I knew I was going to do a video on it because I've never considered myself to be outspoken or a rebel or a revolutionary or anything like that. I'm just a guy on the internet that just speaks his mind, says all the things that we're actually thinking, but I say them out loud so everyone can hear them. And the reason for this is because normalizing this standard, this low level standard of life, in my opinion, is criminal. Because look at how boring our lives are. Every day for the past 3 years, I get up, I wash the dirt off myself like a dirty, filthy troll, and I go to Pound Town. I do my 8 hours at Pound Town, and it's insufferable. The days are super long, the work is very, very stressful, and it doesn't stop. In fact, yesterday I was talking to one of the guys that works on the other side of this group, and I asked him, I was like, do you think my job is easy? And he responds back with, I know your job's not easy. I know the stress of running an entire department basically by yourself. And I thought, well, no one else that I know of has this level of responsibility. It is an incredible feeling to be at the helm of something that requires you to have 8 arms while simultaneously working on 5 different projects across 4 different monitors and 3 different computers. And that can be my average day. And you would think that someone with this much responsibility would at least have financial comfort, work stability, or something. But no, not in this society. Not in this society where I have to wake up early to start working before my job where I have to come home and keep working after my first job. There is nothing like that. Every job in America right now isn't enough to pay your bills, and it won't be for the rest of your life. That's how bad things have gotten. And no one cares about your suffering. No one cares about you going home and crying, or crying in the break room, or crying on the drive to work, or crying on the way home. No one cares about your pain, your suffering, your mental stress, and not knowing whether or not you're going to get laid off in the next hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Everyone is just sitting back waiting to see what next bad thing is going to happen to them. All right, so let's get into our opening monologue written by the delightful ChatGPT. If you guys haven't talked to ChatGPT through the app, I highly recommend it. Number one, you can tell ChatGPT to be anything you want. If you want ChatGPT to be an astronaut, just tell it. Talk to me as an astronaut. All of my scripts are written from the perspective of a 25-year-old, worn out human being that's not certain what's going to happen. It's a survivor story. Every single one of these videos. I may change the prompt for how I want it written, but it's coming from someone who's in the exact same situation as you are. You're working, you're not getting ahead, and you're falling further and further behind in your bills. Do you know how many credit cards I have that I can't afford to pay anymore? Nearly all of them. Why? Because I had to run up the credit cards in order to survive. And with that said, let's get into this. They keep telling us to work hard, stay positive, and be patient. But what if patience doesn't pay rent? The working class is screaming, but no one in power seems to hear us. Or worse, they hear us and just don't care. We're not lazy, we're not dramatic, we're just done pretending that grinding ourselves into the ground is noble. This isn't a motivational speech. This is a survival story. We're all in survival mode. Every single day that you go to work now, you're in survival mode. We're not thriving. We're not buying homes. We're not getting into relationships. And at the end of the week, before we get to our next paycheck, we're pulling our pockets out of our pants and wondering, well, how many days am I not going to be able to afford to eat this month? And even if you were on food stamps because you're that broke, food stamps aren't designed to pay for all your food. Food stamps are 10-day, it at most, stipend for food. It was never designed to keep the masses full. In fact, when I worked in retail, my supervisor had a delightful saying to all of his workers. Oh, it seems like it's that time of the week that you're just going to be able to afford to eat iced soup until your next paycheck. And I was like, there's no need for the cruelty from the bottom. But that's one thing that I've known throughout my entire life is that once you become homeless while working, your boss doesn't care. That they're the direct reason why you became homeless. Whether it's a layoff, not enough money, or the simple fact that they cut your hours because they want to save money. Because remember what I told you guys, in 1919, that's when things changed. That's when they made it 100% obvious that you don't matter. If you're not a shareholder or an executive, you don't matter. You don't matter in any conceivable way to Evil Corp. Because Evil Corp's there for the taking. Fleece is already sitting in the parking lot at your job waiting for you to show up at 8. In fact, Fleece is hoping you show up at 7:55 because it's more important than food and water. Talking point number 1. Most working class people are doing everything right. Clocking in, showing up, working overtime, and still can't afford basic needs. The idea that hard work leads to success is a myth. When wages haven't kept up with rent, groceries, or medical care, it's not laziness. It's wage theft dressed up as opportunity. Ooh, that's pretty harsh. Opportunity is a word that constantly comes up when I talk about these things because all politicians, all rich people, all people who are doing better than you will tell you, oh, the opportunity's there. You just got to reach out and take it. I remember I was 18 years old. I was at the university. I was working a dead-end minimum wage job. And I had someone come up to me and give me that speech. The opportunity's there. All you have to do is take it. Go to school and then get a good job. Well, I've never had a good job. And I never will. I know that for a fact. If you spent your whole life working a crap job, opportunity is never going to come around. You could say the same thing about a lottery ticket. The opportunity to buy the lottery ticket is there. But what is that lottery ticket? It's an empty promise. Just like your life is currently. An empty promise where you spend your leisure time, and I put leisure into air quotes here, you spend your leisure time sleeping because it's the closest thing to being murked. Someone in the comment section yesterday said that sleep is the cousin of murked. And it's true. When you're in sleep mode, nothing else matters. As Ernest Hemingway said, when I'm awake, my life falls apart. And that's exactly what happens to the proles. When you're awake, it's costing you money. It's costing you pain and suffering. Do you think going to Pound Town is fun for any single person? No. Because Pound Town is just that. You assume the position, and Pound Town takes you. That's all it is. It was never designed to help you. It keeps you coming back. Remember, I did I think you guys saw this video. It's called the Slave Calculator, where they calculate out exactly how little they have to pay you to get you to come back the next day. That's the way that these corporations function. They've done the math. They know that if they give you this many fish heads per week, you might come back the next week. That's how evil our society is. They can't have you getting ahead. They can't have you competing with the very same business that you work at currently. They don't want people starting businesses that would directly compete with the larger corporations, the corporations that have made it a point to find ways to not have to compete with people by buying you out or flat out making certain you can't run a business. Because look around us. When was the last time you shopped at an actual small business? And the worst part is that the small business wants so badly to be a big business. They want profits to go up. The owner wants a larger mansion, a faster car, and even hotter wife. We, as the pros, we get nothing. We look at those people and we think to ourselves, that guy's dream is to make millions of dollars this year. My dream is not to starve this year. Talking point number two. The working class is constantly told to self care their way out of burnout, anxiety, and poverty with yoga apps, affirmations, or therapy they can't afford. But no amount of meditation will fix a broken system where survival depends on luck, side hustles, and hoping your car doesn't break down. And this brings me to something I said to my acquaintance for years. That car of yours isn't worth a dime. You need to get rid of it. You need to stop having these stupid thoughts that you are not going to have a car payment. That is not realistic. You will have a car payment for the rest of your life because you have to. And now, what is she doing? She's walking everywhere. She's riding her bike in 115-degree heat because she wouldn't listen. Now the car has a broken engine. That makes the car not worth fixing. And the worst part is the bank bullied her into paying off that car this year, knowing full well, just like I did, that the car was going nowhere. A 15-year-old car isn't going to stay intact. And because people don't listen, because people come to this channel and they think that I'm crazy or stupid or retarded for saying the things that I do on this channel, your life is going nowhere. That car of hers is going to be a donation because she wouldn't listen. The proletariat isn't listening right now. I've been screaming at you guys for 20 years that you need to get up off your rear end and do something. Because just like that car, you're not going anywhere. Your engine is broken. Your windshield is broken. You turn the key and sometimes your Promobile starts. But your life is going nowhere until you make that conscious decision that you're going to change this system. Because this system wants you walking. It wants you crawling on all fours to a job that's barely going to give you enough money so you can show up tomorrow. They want the proletariat silent on its knees. And when you're on your feet, you're in the assume the position. That's what this world has to offer you. And all of the letters that you get from your job telling you about how much they love their workers or how we're all a family, it's a big, giant joke. You know that you're crying. You know that you're suffering. And you know that without a significant pay raise, you are going to move into your car. It's not about if, it's about when. Talking point number 3. Every time poor people speak up, they're told to be grateful, quiet, or less angry. But silence keeps the system running. The working class is screaming because we're done being disposable, invisible, blamed for problems we didn't create. Anger isn't the problem. It's the first step towards change. Think of this, guys. What do you think it cost to drop bombs? A ton of money. What do you think it costs to fix poverty and homelessness? A lot of money. But where would we rather spend the money? Of course, homelessness and poverty isn't a problem to the people in charge because they don't understand that. Most people who are at the top, our policymakers, have never spent one night on the street. I've spent a lot of my life as a homeless person walking the street. I can tell you, it's one of the worst feelings you'll ever have to walk the street at night with nowhere to go and nowhere to hide. But these people don't care. They claim to want to abolish homelessness or poverty, but at the same time, they have every tool in their disposal, and they won't do it. And I'll say this again. The reason why is because it needs to be there to scare you every single morning when you wake up and you think that you don't want to work anymore, that you don't want to try anymore, that you don't want to build their wealth. Because that's what we're here for. To be used to be exploited, to extract our labor, to make certain that they can continue to make billions of dollars. So you tell me, would they rather drop bombs or save the homeless or save people who don't have money for food? How are you? I don't want to use those words, they're too harsh. How can someone cut the food stamp program but simultaneously want to double the budget for the military? Because they don't care. If you're not rich, you're a loser. And once you become a loser, you become invisible. Because that's what they've done to the people in my city. You're not allowed to sleep outside. You're not allowed to be poor. Every morning, you're expected to wake up and run out there and hustle and hustle and hustle and make enough money. But the reality is, if you're hourly paid, you're never going to make the money that you need to live comfortably. And that's by design. All right, let's do our closing monologue because, of course, I got to get ready for Pound Town. We're not asking for yachts. We're asking for peace of mind, for rest that doesn't come with guilt, jobs that don't destroy us, and lives that don't feel like punishment. The working class is screaming, not for sympathy, but for justice. And if no one listens, we'll build our own megaphone. Oh, ChatGPT, you're so full of crap. The problem is that the system is built in every conceivable way to have four walls that keep you trapped inside the wage cage, only to have the false bottom pulled out from under you, and they'll call it a layoff or work performance. Because remember, 10 to 15% of every corporation is going to get rid of its bottom low level performers. People who can't keep up the smile and work harder every year, doing more jobs, working themselves into burnout. Because I keep thinking about that, and I even mentioned this like 3 times yesterday during the day, is that when people ask me, how do you avoid burnout? You don't avoid it. You're running straight towards it. The only way that you're going to be able to deal with burnout is to develop a horrible drinking problem or some other way of coping. That's not going to be good for you. But unless you come up with something, the burnout will take you out. Maybe not directly, but eventually burnout gets us all. Because there's one thing about all our lives. They're boring, they're repetitive, and you better work harder. You better work more jobs, and you better realize that no matter how hard you work, you will never get ahead. And the opportunities that you thought you had, the opportunities that you were told about when you were a child. So I always come back to being in kindergarten and they tell you, if you work hard, you're going to go places. But if you don't go to school and you don't get good grades, you're going to end up in a failed life. And that is the worst advice you could give anyone. I was actually thinking about this last night, is that if you tell a kid when they're in kindergarten that no matter how hard you work, the opportunity to escape will never manifest itself. Can you imagine? Because that's what Gen Z's at right now. They realize that the only thing that they're going to do by going into the workplace is to be exploited, and be exploited at the worst possible way, because they will use your lack of experience, your education against you. They want you working in call centers or stocking shelves or in a warehouse. That's where they want you, because this world will always need cheap, disposable labor.